This is the window where I'll be installing the EcoBreeze 2, and I just want to point out something here. This is an insert. It's a Marvin insert, double hung, and you can see right here this piece of the framing is very skinny. It's not really designed to support any weight, not an air conditioner, and not a 14-pound window fan, even though actually it would probably support the EcoBreeze just fine, but definitely not an air conditioner. Either way, it also doesn't present a flat surface on which to set the fan, which is what the EcoBreeze 2 seems to be designed for. The underside of the fan is pretty much flat. I'll show you in more detail in a moment. So in order to deal with that, I'm using a very high-tech solution here. This, the technical term for this is a piece of wood. You may be familiar with that. It's actually ripped from a piece of dimensional lumber. 2x4, 2x anything really would do. So that's going to sit right there and provide a surface for the EcoBreeze to sit on. And I'm just going to put some weather stripping on one edge here to make it sit flat there. Okay, so here's the piece of wood with the weather stripping. Now when we place that in position, it sits neatly there. There's another feature I want to point out, which is just really lucky for this install. Here's the side panel, and it is a perfect fit. In that window channel. The directions, the installation directions, I think they expect that to fit all the way into the channel, and to use a piece of foam to seal it. This fits so perfectly, I don't see any reason to use foam, because it's really not going to let any air in the side there. It also provides enough support when both sides are set up, that I really don't feel the need to install a support bracket. The idea of the support bracket is it installs, you drill holes in the sill, screw it in, and the bracket provides the support underneath the fan. I don't advise you to do it this way, but I'm not going to bother with that bracket. I don't really want to drill into this aluminum cladding on these windows. And I feel that the fan for me is secure enough without that. So this is the underside of the fan, and here's the piece of wood that I'm going to use to support it. And just look at how perfectly this fits. I don't know if Nature's Cooling Solutions any reason to design it that way, but it makes it a really secure fit when that sits on the piece of wood in the window. And I don't even feel like I need to put the foam strip along here to seal that, because it's just going to sit there and sit on that piece of wood perfectly. So now I'm going to install the side panels onto the body of the unit. And to do that, we have to loosen this center screw and then remove each of the screws at the end. this extends, I forget what the widest, I think the minimum is about 22 inches, 24, maybe it's 24. That's probably 30. You can see here, this is a short piece of the foam that's designed to go between the two sashes when the fan is installed. I've just taken a short piece of that to seal down at the bottom here in the window channel, just to make that snug. Okay, now we have to remove the screen. As you can see, the fan seems completely secure like that, so I'm not going to bother with the bracket. Having said that, there is no public thoroughfare beneath that window, it's just our yard. Almost certainly your building codes are going to say you should install a bracket so that nobody gets a £14 window fan falling on their head. So don't do as I do. I want to show you something else about this window. This bottom edge here has a weather strip which closes against the sill. It also, of course, closes against the top of the fan, which means I'm not going to use a foam strip all the way across. I'm just going to use foam strips in these side slots here where there's a bigger gap. But first we need to put in the foam side panels, and I'm choosing deliberately not to center this fan in the window because having it to the side like this just brings it marginally closer to the center of the room. I tried cutting this with a modelling knife, and it's actually much easier using scissors, which is what the instructions tell you, so how about that. Obviously you want that just slightly wider than the gap so that it fits in and makes a good seal. Okay, so those are both good and snug. And as you can see, the bottom edge just has an almost perfect fit with that piece of dimensional lumber. I'm taking this foam here and I'm just sliding it into that window channel at the side there. And cut that to length. Same thing on the other side. And now when I close the window, onto the fan, everything's nice and snug. So it's a combination of the foam, the supplied foam, and the weather strip that's actually part of the window. Maybe just a tiny bit of daylight in that bottom corner. Same over there, but nothing really to worry about. A little bit at the top corner of the foam. Not really much can be done about that. I guess you could stuff something in there. I don't think I'm going to bother. Now we just have to close the gap between the sashes using this supplied again, and the white layer goes towards the inside, and at the end where the two layers are closer together it can just be cut a little thinner. So before installing this foam, I'm just going to wrap this cable tie around it to make it easier to retrieve at the end of the season. That is also supplied with the fan. Now, one gap that wasn't addressed by any of the supplies that came with the fan was a gap that appears right here when the window is raised. The reason for that is that from the midpoint down there's a weather strip that's part of the window, part of the installed window, but that weather strip is not present above that because the manufacturer doesn't see any reason for that, since when you have the window open they assume you want airflow, but in this case we want to seal it up. So I just used a thin strip of soft weather stripping which I installed to the outer edge of the bottom sash, and that has closed up that gap perfectly, and the windows can still be moved, although now that I've put that top foam in I'm not going to bother moving the window again. Okay, so there we have our EcoBreeze 2 smart window fan installed and ready for the season. I'll just run through the controls here. You can see the display shows the indoor temperature. If we run through the setup, so we've got number of hours till filter replacement or cleaning, outdoor temperature, indoor dew point, outdoor dew point, maximum fan speed in auto mode. This defaults to 6, but I wanted to allow it to run at maximum speed, so I raised it to 10. LED brightness, which I've reduced, and then number of hours between filter warnings, which you can change in increments of 50, so that's 450, 500, 550, defaults to 500. You can change between Celsius and Fahrenheit, and then back to auto mode. The fan button here, you can turn the fan on in manual mode and cycle between 5 different speeds. And then humidity control. The purpose of this is if you run AC, it may be hotter inside than outside, but it may be more humid outside than inside, and you may not want the fan to run at that time. If you enable humidity control, it will not run if the outdoor humidity is higher than the indoor, and it's currently telling us that that is true. But we don't use the AC much, if at all, if we can avoid it. So I'm going to turn that off. And then of course there's an on-off control. So as you can see, the whole install didn't take very long, although full disclosure, I installed another one in another window a couple of weeks ago, so I did have a little bit of practice. Hope you enjoyed this, and please comment below if you have any questions or ideas. Thanks.